In other stories now, 2 weeks ago, INEC announced her proposed delineation of Warri Federal Constituency, which has been largely condemned and seen as a ploy to further marginalize the Itsekiri people. There have been agitation from both youth and community leaders that INEC should obey the previous order of the Supreme Court and review the Imbalance Committee on Delineation, who they allege have been financially induced. The people are asking President Bola Tinubu to investigate the situation, especially regarding the delineation of the Warri Federal Constituency, to avert another crisis. We have joining us this hour now the leader of the Okere Community, Amaechi Ogbitse, who is on ground here in the studio to talk about this controversy. We thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Help us understand the standpoint of the Itsekiri group regarding this INEC exercise.
Well, what we used to know as INEC is Independent National Electoral Commission. But today we have started them to be an Independent National Electoral Commission. The president may look at it as a funny way, but it's dangerous to Mr. President. If they can treat the Itsekiris this way, they could connive with other political parties to disassociate the president from the people of Nigeria. That is why our first approach is that Mr. President should set up an independent inquiry to investigate the rust of the dollarizing of INEC officials. For example, the woman, the Professor Gomos, she's an Ijaw woman. The traditional adage made it clear that when the son, the devil's son, and the devil has a case, and the devil's mother is the judge, who will win the case? It is clear. It is the devil's son, because the devil's mother is the one presiding over.
So is that the basis of the allegation by the Itsekiri, the fact that it's headed by an Ijaw
Good. And the project is being sponsored by Ijaw people, trying to draft themselves into Warri South. For example, Warri South does not have Ijaws. There is no Ijaw community in Warri South. The community the Ijaws are claiming to be theirs is Okere Community, with legal document to support it. Legal document. Not that we're just saying it. This is a judgment. This is a case that was decided by Justice Vigo
of the Supreme Court.
Of the Supreme Court at that time in 1956. 1956. They say set up who were bound never to go to court again with the Itsekiris over lands in Warri. Just of recent, we discovered that the government in 1999 promulgated a gazette bringing the Ijaw people into Warri South. We never knew about it.
And you say that is against the spirit of the judgment of 1959 now that you say?
Yes, against the spirit of the judgment of 1959.
Okay, okay. But kindly conclude on that point. So.
Now, what happened? The former deputy governor of Delta State, who happens to be an Ijaw man, influenced it to make sure this case was taken to Multidor. But information came to us who said this is a case that's supposed not to be in the Multidor.
Okay.
The case should come straight to the High Court. So we now filed a motion to the High Court in Warri. And the High Court declared that there's no place in the world a gazette is superior to the law. So that case was dismissed.
Okay.
So you can see what I'm trying to do. These are the reasons, these are the areas they want to use in dumping themselves into Warri South.
Okay, so let's look at the position of INEC. INEC has said now, amongst other things, that extensive consultations on this delineation exercise have been ongoing since February 2023. What role have your groups played, to champion your cause?
It's a very
Since
fun,
then?
Yes, it's a very fun story. INEC ordered my arrest during the stakeholders meeting. INEC.
On what basis?
Because I exposed INEC. I said, you people went to Court of Appeal and you lost. This is the appeal judgment. INEC took appeal against the judgment of the 10 ward delivered by Justice Auta in 2003 in favor of the Itsekiris, telling the world that there's nothing like 12 ward, but 10 ward. INEC took appeal and lost the appeal. That is the judgment. This is no photocopy. Because I said this, the same INEC wrote a letter to their office in Asaba, directing them, this is a letter, directing the office in Asaba, after Justice Auta's ruling in 2003, that with immediate effect, they should revise to 10 ward, no more 12 ward. But INEC disobeyed all these things. Now, what I said in that meeting, if you are saying you have respect for rule of law, the Supreme Court judgment never said that the judgment of the 10 ward and the case you lost in the appeal, the Supreme Court judgment, the only thing the Supreme Court judgment said is that go and re-delineate. And you must pass through the due process, not a process that you have on your own build.
So are you saying the Itsekiris were not involved in the INEC engagement with all the critical groups?
I just told you now, INEC ordered my arrest.
That is you.
Yes.
But when we talk about the full body...
during the stakeholders meeting, INEC ordered my arrest.
Okay, and how did that pan out eventually?
It was a revolution. It was a protest, mass protest.
Are you saying that the fact that you were arrested excluded the entire Itsekiris from the engagement?
Good. That's a very good question you have just asked me now. The Itsekiri protested that you cannot make an Ijaw woman chairman of the committee, the vice Ijaw, which means you have already pre-planned what to do during this delineation exercise. And two, let me clear you, it is communities that makes up local government. You understand what I'm saying? Now, what is the fraud that has been committed by INEC? Take example like in Warri, where I comes from. The 10 ward judgment still stands. No court of law, no Supreme Court. Supreme Court, because INEC never went to Supreme Court. Because of that 10 ward judgment, INEC went into agreement with us before the 2023 election that they are going to implement the 10 ward judgment. I can read it out if you permit me to read it. I can read it.
Now, this is the 2022...
Yes, this document was signed for the 2029 election.
Okay.
That they are going to implement the 12 ward, the 10 ward judgment, which has nullified the 12 ward which they are using. But we stopped the election before the election was postponed. INEC invited us to Asaba. We went before the Commissioner of Police. You
stopped the election of what year? Now, the last general, 2019. Right, okay.
We stopped it, but luckily for us, that same day, the election was postponed to the other week, based on security reason, according to them. We went to Asaba. Getting to Asaba, this is INEC agreement, that they're going to implement the judgment of the 10 ward in the week of that election, which INEC never obeyed.
All right. So, well, INEC now says that inviting all stakeholders to submit observations on the draft report. It insists that is a draft report. What has caused this uproar now is a draft report, and it's now the submission of the report. That's what INEC is saying now, that it's a draft report, and is asking stakeholders, including your group, you know, the members of the Itsekiri group now, to submit their report and observations for further engagement. So what's your reaction to that?
Do I clear you? The board, the banner INEC put, placed on the gate of INEC office in Asaba, it was written the final report of the ward delineation. Final report of the ward delineation. It is the action, the reaction, and condemnation of the public. First of all, are they condemning? And the Ijaw woman and the Ijaw man happens to be the chairman and the vice of the committee who dictates the pace of the committee. Now, importation, the imported community that does not exist. Now, because of this reaction, shutting down oil wells, shutting down flow station, doing this, protesting, and so on and so forth. May I let you know The three Warris produce nothing less than 45% of the total oil in this country. The Itsekiris in Delta State will produce 62.1%.
Okay. Does your group have anything to do with the shutting down of oil wells?
Because that is always the federal government. You can drag the federal government attention to what you are doing. They want to take our economic base.
Okay.
They want to take our economic base. That's why we said, let us draw the attention of the federal government.
You don't see that as a felony?
No, what is felony? What INEC has done, is it not felony? Itsekiri is a nation of its own. Itsekiri is a nation of its own before the 1914 amalgamation.
All right. I'm afraid I have stretched this. We really don't have time for further engagement, but we thank you very much for speaking with us on this issue.
Thank you.